allegedly instructing a class 5 Muslim student to slap a Hindu classmate as part of punishment for not answering a question that Shaista had asked. The teacher Shaista, herself a Muslim, was employed with a private school in Dugawar village. Now, as per the police, allegedly, she was inciting communal hatred by engaging two children. Correct, she did exactly that. The victim's father lodged a complaint saying the incident has hurt his son's religious sentiments. Now, the father claims that the class teacher got his son, a Hindu, slapped by a Muslim student to make a communal point after he could not answer a question by her. Based on the complaint, an FIR under IPC sections 153 promoting enmity between different groups on grounds of religious race, etc., and under IPC 323 voluntarily causing hurt. Under these two sections, this FIR was lodged against the accused teacher, Shaista, as she should by the Uttar Pradesh police.
मैंने एक चीज़ सुनाई नहीं थी, जिस वजह से मैम ने हमें खड़ा कर दिया था पीछे वाले, और हमारे पीछे वाली सीट पे बच्चे बैठने वाले से कहा कि उसे जाकर इसके ठीक से थप्पड़ लगाओ, तो उसने मेरे दोनों गालों पर एक एक थप्पड़ लगाए और मेरे पास जो बैठा था उसके भी लगाए।
सर बच्चे मुझे पूरा तो पता नहीं क्लास का क्या हुआ था, लेकिन जब मुझे कल बच्चे ने बताया सुस्त था मेरा बच्चा बहुत, तो मैंने उससे पूछा कि बेटे तुम इतने सुस्त क्यों हो, तो उसने बताया कि मेरी मैडम ने मेरे कुछ लेसन ना सुनाने पर साथ के सहपाठी से 2 कसकर चांटे मारने के लिए कहा। अपनी सोच से मैंने फिर एक तहरीर बनाई, अपने घर एप्लीकेशन बनाई और मैं जाकर थाने में देकर रसमोली ये लिखा उसमें कि मेरे बच्चे को आप 2 थप्पड़ के 3 थप्पड़ लगा देती है, लेकिन टीचर लगाती हूँ, किसी बच्चे से ना लगवाती।
Now, right in the beginning of the show, I did say that this could be read as an act of reprisal punishment. Why do I say that? Shaista, a blot for an educationist, seemingly followed another woman, another teacher from an adjoining district. If Sambal district is there, right adjoining Muzaffarnagar district. A school not very far off from her own. The difference, the only difference here, was the teacher belonged to a different faith and the children, where their faith was concerned, was reversed. And she allegedly had made a Hindu student slap a Muslim child. In what was a harrowing video from Muzaffarnagar, Uttar Pradesh's Neha Public School, the principal in question, Tripta Tyagi, made a class 2nd student slap for an hour repeatedly of his own classmate on the direction of the principal, Tripta Tyagi, because he did not study his multiplication tables. The principal and the teacher in question of Neha Public School, Tripta Tyagi, at least in the video, could have been seen urging the students to beat up the child, citing his Muslim identity. In her defense, Tripta Tyagi has said that the video has been tampered with in order to stoke tensions, something which the police also said that there were other reasons. However, the Supreme Court, hearing a plea on the case, hit out at the Uttar Pradesh government and called the incident a failure on the part of the state. The top court said there was prima facie case of failure on the part of the UP government in complying with the provisions of the Right to Education Act, which deals with providing quality, free and compulsory education to children up to 14 years without any discrimination on the basis of caste and creed. Now both Shaista from Sambal and Tripta Tyagi from Muzaffarnagar have not just, both of them, if we bring both these women together, have not just shamed their community of being a guru imparting knowledge, but both Shaista and Tripta have shamed humanity by not just allowing, but themselves teaching lessons of hate. So we ask the very obvious question. Teacher Shaista has been arrested and that is great. Teacher Tripta Tyagi ka number kab aayega? Why is Tripta Tyagi still free? Joining us live right now is Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, Desh Ratan Nigam, lawyer and political analyst, Vikram Singh, security expert and former DGP. Before I cut across to Tehseen and Mr. Nigam, I'd like to get in Vikram Singh into this conversation. Vikram Singh, the police has taken exemplary action especially at the back of an FIR, a complaint which was lodged by the father of this young child, which the incident that has happened today. And immediately, Shaista has been arrested for flaring communal tension and causing voluntary harm. But having said that, which, Vikram Singh is super, because a lesson needs to be immediately imparted on anyone resorting to something like this. But one does wonder what happened at the part of Tripta Tyagi. Yes, the father of that young child says he doesn't want to get into any police case, doesn't want to register any complaint, but the Supreme Court's words on that, Vikram Singh, are enough. The police could have taken suo motu action and arrested Tripta Tyagi.
Preeti, good evening. I think in your opening remarks, you have explained very lucidly that both Shaista and Tripta have shamed not only their respective communities, but their noble profession as well. What happened to Shaista? Yes, of course, she had it coming. But in case of Tripta, yes, the million-dollar question is, why was the FIR not lodged suo motu by the police themselves? And in fact, in one of my debates I mentioned, it was the job of the police, even if the father was reluctant to lodge the FIR, it was the job of the police to lodge the FIR suo motu, ensure that Tripta is put behind bars. Otherwise, this will have a cascading effect and give the impression that the state is not serious about apprehending these lumpen elements in society who use a communal card even in the highest and the most respected temple of learning. And yes, the police were caught on the wrong foot when it came to Tripta Tyagi, and here I would say that they were proactive. I would say that I would have been very satisfied if this proactive approach was discernible in the case of Tripta Tyagi. Sadly and tragically, it was missing, and that erodes the credibility of the local police. That erodes, in fact, the impartiality, the reputation of impartiality of the local police. That also questions why this arrest, this FIR, everything happening before you could say Jack Robinson, and why in case of Tripta Tyagi, you were dragging your feet, which is just not condonable, which is just not acceptable, Preeti. You very rightly said that the days of using this brutality in schools are long over. My generation was brought up on caning, cold bath and bad food, but those days are now over. Those were the days of the British Raj. Those were and the follow-up. But today, these things are unacceptable, and any teacher who would be thinking or even trying to do anything like that would be in very serious trouble, as in the case of Shaista and Tripta. I do hope that the police have learned their very bitter lessons now, that you have to be equality before law, whether it is Shaista or Tripta, both are equal before law.
I want to cut across to Tehseen, and then we'll go to Desh Ratan Nigam. Tehseen, these are, of course, teachers of hate, both of them. It's strange and it's ironic that they come from different religion, but the core of their being is exactly the same, full of hate.
So, Preeti, I often say one thing, that there is a horseshoe theory. So for the rowdy right and the loony left, that think they're very far away from each other. If you look at the horseshoe, they're actually very close to each other, just like the ends of the horseshoe. So while both are extreme at their ends and they think that they're very far away from the other, they're mirror images of the other. And I agree with the former DGP that the UP police acted in case of Shaista, and well done. But it just refused to act in case of Tripta. And please don't say that the father did not file an FIR for the young child in case of Tripta, simply because this was a suo motu offense. And the police should have taken a suo motu offense and should have arrested Tripta Tyagi ji. This also shows governance in Uttar Pradesh. It is now obvious that the holiest book of our land, the Constitution of India, is not followed in Uttar Pradesh. This is a state where routinely encounters take place. You've had a gangster killed on live television. Till now, nothing has transpired out of it. Weapons are easily available. The state is in utter chaos. And I think that something needs to be done, because if the Constitution is going to be taken for granted in this way, then we are in very serious trouble. There is some disturbance, Preeti.
All right, we're going to connect that with you, Tehseen. I'm going to quickly ask our guest team to take a look at Tehseen's line. Desh Ratan Nigam, fabulous work by the Delhi police. They need to be lauded. Of course, there was an FIR, and a lesson needs to be meted out, and an example needs to be made quick and fast that nobody dares do that again. That wasn't done in the case of Tripta Tyagi, Desh Ratan Nigam, and that's a question which many of us should ask today if we are in our right minds.
See, the fact is that both cases are similar and FIR should have been registered in the earlier case as well. There is no doubt about it, and Supreme Court's verdict is also quite clear. However, probably it appears it was not pursued by, nor in the case of Tripta, the parents of the child did not want to pursue it also. And at the same time, that she was a differently abled young person. Probably those could be the reason, but in my eyes, they are not the legal grounds to not to register an FIR. In the present case, it has been done, so it should have been done in the previous case as well. Because as you rightly said, it should set an example. Law is for not only reformative but preventive, and it should be a deterrent also for preventing future actions. And as Vikram Singh clearly pointed out, there appears to be some kind of discriminatory attitude in the two cases. And if you have to establish rule of law, the principle of equality as enshrined in the Constitution has to be followed. There cannot be any two ways about it. And once this happens, then you will not see such kind of cases, taking place even in the future or in the present. So therefore, these are the few things that have to be kept in mind, and police needs to be sensitized. If you recall, the police reforms in the police has to be brought in not at the higher level but at the lower level. The sensitization, the law, the awareness of the law. In number of cases we had seen even in the past where the Supreme Court has passed the law, but that those were not being followed at the lower level. So these are the things that one has to keep in mind, and those reforms, if you look at Prakash Singh's committee and everything, those reforms have to take place at the grassroots level. At the upper level, people are aware of it, but at the lower level, I believe a lot of sensitization and awareness of the law has to take place.
Tehseen, you want to make a point, and I'll go back to Mr. Vikram Singh after that. Go ahead, make your point.
No, the point is well taken that there must be sensitization of the police force at both the lower level and upper level, or whichever level. But look, this is a state where routinely those in constitutional posts, the highest constitutional posts, sort of make one section of community villains. In Uttar Pradesh was the famous remark of Shamshan Kabristan. This is the highest office of the country. You routinely have names of cities changed because they come across as representing a particular religion. So this is a state where bigotry to an extent is even encouraged by those in constitutional posts or elected representatives. What do you expect the police to do? The police are only following their masters. What sensitization? When you routinely have statements in parliament from the ruling party MP that's in government in Uttar Pradesh, calling another member of parliament all sorts of racial slurs which are associated with a religion, and no action is taken. So when you say that the lower level police officers need to be sensitized, they are only looking at what their superiors and those elected are doing. And therein is the problem. You cannot have hate and think hate will only be limited to our little electioneering. When you start a fire, when you start hate spreads like a wildfire. Look at what's happening in Manipur. The chief minister's tweets are deleted, but Manipur is still burning. The same chief minister who's spread hate with his tweets, yesterday's house was attacked. So there is a problem with hate, and unless we don't get down to stopping hate, you're going to see the spread from the top to the bottom.
Vikram Singh, I just want to ask you, because many right now will turn around, especially because hypocrisy when it comes down to hate is very rampant nowadays. There will be a lot which will stand in and say, great, Shaista is arrested, but the same will completely go mum when it comes down to what Tripta Tyagi did and why is she free. Not a question will be asked on that account. I want to ask you a very direct question, sir. The police in Uttar Pradesh Muzaffarnagar, how could they have taken immediate suo motu action and went in and arrested Tripta Tyagi?
Preeti, this question was asked to me in many debates, and I said it's very simple. Rule of law is very simple. 2 + 2 = 4. There is not much discretion. I give you a classic example. A dead body is found in a field. Do the police wait for the complainant to come up? No, they don't. They file a case suo motu immediately, and they themselves become the complainant. And this is the standard operating procedure. No discretion and no instructions are required from the higher-ups. And when you look upon the higher-ups for instructions, well, you are failing in your duty. You know, bigotry, double standards, and inequality before law are just not acceptable. It takes a lifetime to build the credibility of a department, but one small such misdemeanor, and it erodes the credibility and brings down ones to its knees. I do hope the police have learned their lessons and will not repeat and replicate the mistakes of Muzaffarnagar, because you have a job to perform and that job is sacred and sacrosanct. Please do not distinguish between one community and the other. Take pains to give the signal and do and walk your talk that all are, you belong to everyone and everyone belongs to you, equality before law.
Deshratan Nigam, you know, very often it's said that no action is better than selective action. Because then you're nothing but a hypocrite.
Preeti ji, in fact, what is happening today, that the hate speech is becoming a new norm in the society. And then we see a selective outrage on the issues. And if a particular, A community does it, there is more outrage. And if a B community does it, it is lesser outrage. We have to see all these incidents from the same lens so that at least a common action can be taken. Now, the selection of, outrage by certain section of politicians is something probably which is...
But Deshratan Nigam, sir, I'll interrupt you here. It's not politicians. It's all of us. It's you and I on most good days and bad.
No, yes. I'm talking the general, the outlook of our society that I'm talking about. And that society is now accepting that hate speech from whichever quarter it is coming. And it has become a kind of a norm. And certainly, what is a hate speech has not been very clearly defined. We need a law on the subject where it is clearly defined. There are few, judgments which talk about when the particular case comes, this is a hate speech, this is not a hate speech. So it has got to be codified. What is a hate speech? And then, kind of a concrete law can come defining in the IPC what is hate speech. Now it is all spread over. So we do require certain kind of revisit on this subject so that the people also understand what is a hate speech. There is a very thin line, you just cross it without realizing it. Some do realize, some don't realize. So therefore, as I said, we do require a deep thought on it. Maybe Law Commission can get into it and define it and recommend to the Government of India.
But Deshratan Nigam, I'll ask you a direct question. I'll bring in Tehseen as well. I understand, sir, you're making perfect points, and they sound really good. But instead of getting into the Law Commission and getting into what is this, there needs to be sensitization. Take action. What is stopping today the Yogi Adityanath government to crack down and take swift action? Tripta Tyagi should have been behind bars a month ago.
See, I told you that there could have been some reason because the family never wanted, and probably the police also got, slightly relaxed. And although under the law, they are under compulsion to take us home.
The Supreme Court has just said it, sir. They have slammed the Uttar Pradesh government for inaction on this case.
No, certainly. See, there is no doubt on that aspect. Me and you and I think everybody is on the same page so far as this is concerned. There is a dereliction of duty on the part of the police there in UP, and it should have been rectified. But probably because of the reason I said in my earlier part of my discussion, there could have been some, kind of leeway given that should not have been done. It should create an example, and it should at the same time, prevent such kind of incidents happening in the future.
Tehseen, you want to make a point? Come in, please.
For one, Preeti, one is either pregnant or not pregnant. You can't be half pregnant. So either you followed up with the law of the land or you haven't followed up with the law of the land. You cannot half follow up with the law of the land and for whatever reasons then not followed up with the law of the land. That's point number one. But point number two, to what Mr. Deshratan Nigam ji said about the hate speech. The hate speech case judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court is on my name. I would move Supreme Court and mob violence, and then the hate speech judgment came out. It's on my name. And the Honorable Supreme Court was very clear in its guidelines of what constitutes hate speech. After this, the Honorable Supreme Court asked me to go to the Home Secretary, and I went to the Home Secretary. We made the laws. Do you know what happened? The most respected Home Minister Amit Shah ji got up in Parliament and said, we don't need any such laws. So the Supreme Court judgment was taken for granted by none other than the Home Minister of India, Amit Shah ji. The question to ask is just two. Who benefits from hate speech? Which political party? And the answer is very clear, Bharatiya Janata Party. Point number two, where you don't need a law commission. The Supreme Court has said what is hate speech. It's gone tough on it. It's on my name. Why don't you form the laws and codify it? Why do you need the law commission to come in? And it is not, and it's common sense, Preeti. If you slap a child and bring in communal hate, that constitutes an offense. That requires no Supreme Court or Law Commission or Amit Shah ji or Yogi Adityanath ji intervention. That requires intervention by a beat level constable to pick up the police.
All right. Appreciate all three gentlemen for joining us. Thank you. I'm terribly out of time, Mr. Nigam. I apologize. I appreciate all three of you for taking the time out and joining us. It's a good day. We had all three panelists on the same page. But, it's a question that we're going to leave our viewers with. That, when you look at it with a very straight lens, there can't be selective punishment. There cannot be hypocrisy when it comes down to hate. So for those of you who stood up today and said, great that Shaista has been arrested, and she should have, because she's a teacher of hate. But if the likes of you were quiet and smiling coyly when Tripta Tyagi was let off, then shut up and sit down. A quick break. Stay with us. Up next, Rahul Kanwar.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
In the last 1 week, millions of Indians have woken up to a side of Canada they were thus far totally unfamiliar with. So was I for most part. When you hear the word safe haven for terrorists and criminals, the Indian mind automatically, of course, thinks of Pakistan, right? Canada was always a liberal first world democracy governed by rule of law and attractive enough for thousands of Indians to flock there or attempt to flock there every year. Amidst the turbulence of this diplomatic war triggered by the Canadian Prime Minister, the silver lining in my view is that millions of Indians have now become rapidly aware of some very well-hidden realities of Canada. By now, it is more than clear to all of us that Canada has been an active and willing protector of Khalistani terrorists and criminals, including Hardeep Singh Nijjar, whose death has sparked this current India-Canada face-off. You're also fully aware of how Canada has explained away dangerous Khalistani threats to Indian diplomats and nationals as freedom of speech. But what you perhaps don't know is that Canada doesn't only protect terrorists and criminals wanted by India, but many other countries as well. Let me explain. Did you know, for instance, viewer, that Lieutenant Colonel Noor Choudhry, the Bangladesh army officer convicted in the assassination of the father of Bangladesh and its sitting president Sheikh Mujibur Rahman in 1975, has been living a protected life in Canada since 1996? Did you know that? Since 1996. Bangladesh has tried repeatedly to get Lieutenant Colonel Noor Choudhry extradited, but Canada has flatly refused repeatedly. Think about that for just one moment. Lieutenant Colonel Noor Choudhry went through a full trial, was indicted under Bangladesh law and sentenced to death for the assassination of the founding president of the Bangladesh Republic. His crime? Using a machine gun to murder the founder of Bangladesh along with virtually his entire family in their home. And the only reason Lieutenant Colonel Noor Choudhry is still alive is thanks to Canada. So Canada's reputation as a liberal democracy and a vanguard of liberal values is completely hollow. In its desperation to curry favor with tiny sections while projecting that as some soaring campaign for freedom of speech and civil liberties and rights, Canada stands fully exposed before the world today. It's not just me saying it. Look everywhere. Experts around the world are saying it. I guess all of us should take a moment to thank Justin Trudeau for standing up in Parliament and triggering this wave of realization. When the dust settles on this, it'll be Canada picking up the pieces and wondering whether all of this was even necessary, whether the protection of terrorists and criminal assassins really contributes to a global reputation, and whether being hyphenated with Pakistan is a historic low Canada could have done without. Dear Canadians, thank your Prime Minister for everything that's just happened.
You're watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
First question that I want to ask all of you is that with this letter that you're sending to the consulate, with the meeting that you were trying to get with the consulate, what are you hoping for that the consulate will do or the Indian government will do?
हम ये सोचकर मेमोरेंडम देने के लिए आए हैं कि कॉन्सलेट जनरल और मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फॉरेन अफेयर हिंदुस्तान की वो इस पर दोबारा विचार करे जो इन्होंने पाबंदी लगाई है। सभी लोगों को परेशान करना बिल्कुल ठीक नहीं है। अगर उनका कंसर्न किसी स्पेसिफिक बात पर है तो उसके लिए वो एक्शन ले सकते हैं, लें, लेकिन सभी लोगों को परेशान करना, पहले 2-3 साल जो कोरोना काल में निकल गए, सभी लोग बहुत परेशान हुए। आप समझ सकते हैं कि कितनी महंगी टिकट खरीद कर लोग दोबारा उनकी दी हुई टिकट खरीद कर यहाँ पर पहुँचा, और वही सिचुएशन अब क्रिएट होने वाली है, लोगों को साफ दिखाई दे रहा है।
सर ढेरी साहब, आपसे मैं ये पूछना चाहूँगी कि इस समय आप लोग बात कर रहे हैं, कॉन्सुलेट से बात करना चाहते हैं कि इंडियन गवर्नमेंट वापस वीज़ाज़ को अलाउ करे। इंडिया और कनाडा के बीच इस समय जो जिस तरह से रिलेशनशिप को हम देख रहे हैं, और ख़ास तौर से इस समय जैसे आपके शहर में सरी में भी जिस तरह से माहौल है, उसका क्या असर पड़ रहा है जनरल पब्लिक पे? बिकॉज हम ये देख रहे हैं, हम मीडिया में बार बार आ रहा है, आपके यहाँ के लोकल मीडिया में भी आ रहा है, और हम भी इसी वजह से पूरा इंडिया से आए हैं ये देखने के लिए कि क्या हो रहा है, हो क्या रहा है एग्जैक्टली सरी में इस मुद्दे पर।
देखो, दोनों देशों के जो डिप्लोमेटिक संबंध थे वो अच्छे थे, और इंटरनेशनल तौर पे देशों की संधि भी हुई है, जो एक दूसरे देश के क्रिमिनल्स हो वो एक दूसरे को दिए जाते हैं। यहाँ एक की हत्या हुई है, एक किसी की हत्या होना गलत बात है, हम इंडिविजुअल कत्ल के हकों में नहीं है, मगर उस बात को थ्रू प्रॉपर चैनल करना वो अच्छा रहता है। अगर किसी को ब्लेम करना वो दुखता है। इसलिए दोनों देशों की जो डिप्लोमेटिक संबंध है वो बनने चाहिए दोबारा, और जो बातें हुई है दोनों के बीच में उस फैसले को दोबारा गौर से सोचना चाहिए, ताकि जो आम लोग हैं उनको तंगी हो रही है, क्योंकि लोग सारे जो है वो इश्यूज में इन्वॉल्व नहीं होते हैं। तो जनरल लोग जो हैं जो जाने आने से रुके हुए हैं, और इकोनॉमी का दोनों देशों पे फर्क पड़ रहा है और अमन खराब हो रहा है, इसको जल्दी से जल्दी दोनों गवर्नमेंटों को बैठ के हल करना चाहिए।
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 36 and minimum 24 degrees.